Hello?
Yeah, someone. Yeah, hello.
Hello, Doctor. Dr.
Yeah.
Gautam, thank you for everything before I could.
So,
Thank you. Dr. Susan, nice meeting you, Dr.
Yeah.
Susan. I can't hear you, Dr. Susan. Anyway, Dr. Gautam, how do we share the screens now? The file, PPT file.
From your end. From your end.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is a share screen. You go to that.
1 minute, I'm not able to hear you.
There is a share screen option, no?
What option?
Share screen.
Share screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Where will that come?
It is there.
Share screen. Okay.
Yeah.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay. So we are going to give you that right.
Susan.
It says host disabled participants sharing. Host disabled.
Good afternoon, Hariharan sir. Good afternoon, Rajiv sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Dr. Gautam.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
It says
Good afternoon.
host has disabled my participation.
Hello, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Please go to the share screen. There you can share.
Good afternoon, Hariharan sir.
Good afternoon, Hariharan sir. Very good afternoon.
Yeah,
Samuel,
okay.
wish you all the best.
Yes, sir. Welcome, sir.
All the best.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Samuel, now you can share your screen because I am making.
Yeah, I'm just doing it, madam.
Wait. Let PC sir join. After that, you will.
Yeah, it is visible now.
Let PC sir join. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. No, Dr. Rumnaji,
Yes, sir.
have you sent the communication to all our PhD scholars?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because
Good afternoon, Dr. Rumna.
Good afternoon, sir.
yeah, because I just want to make sure that all of our PhD scholars are aware of it,
Yes, sir. They are aware of it.
including 2020 and 21.
Yes, 2020 and 21 in separate absence.
Whatever, if you have sent it to them, fine.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Rao sir. Good afternoon, Professor Rao.
Yeah, very good afternoon, Mr. Samuel. So I wish you all
I'm
the
fine,
best.
sir.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir.
No, don't
I'm
be-
here because of you. Thank you very much, sir.
Everything will be all right. Yeah.
Dr. Hariharan, good afternoon, Dr. Hariharan.
Mr. Samuel, Kriti,
Yes.
and you see all the best.
Thank you, doctor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good afternoon, Dr. Rajiv, and also very good afternoon, Dr. Anupam Dey.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, VC sir. Good afternoon.
I would like to thank both the examiners to accept our request to change the timing from morning 11:30 to 2 o'clock. Really appreciate that. we value your time, but because of certain unavoidable reason, we have to sort of postpone that. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, the external examiners.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Satyendra Kishore, Dr. Hariharan, Dr. Rajiv, Dr. Anupam De. Welcome to the presentation made by Mr. Samuel Ishwara Chakravarti. He is going to make his final defense for the award of the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Management by ICFI University, Jharkhand. And the topic of his thesis, the research work is the relation between profile and the behavior of investors. He has done his research work under the supervision of Dr. Gautam Gandhi. Now I am handing over to to Vice Chancellor, sir, for a few words. Sir, please take over, sir.
Yeah. No. Rajiv, professor from BHU, and Dr. Anupam De, professor from the NIT Kapur. Both the extra examiners for the Viva Voice that is being conducted for Mr. Samuel Chakravarti. Dr. Hariharan, Dr. Satyendra Kishore, Professor Arvind Kumar, Dr. Barik Assistant Dean, Dr. Susan, and Dr. Rumna Bhattacharya, both of them professors of our department, all the faculty members, and all the PhD scholars that are participating in today's open Viva Voice of Mr. Samuel Ezra Chakravarti, who has done his PhD under the guidance of Dr. Gautam Gandhi. And it's a very interesting topic, that is the relationship between risk profile and investment behavior of investors. So, Mr. Samuel Chakravarti, so typically, like in fact, our guidelines are for the presentation of the Viva Voice, we would request you to complete it in a maximum of 45 minutes, half an hour to 45 minutes. That gives ample time to both the examiners to conduct the Viva Voice. Only after the completion of the conduct of the Viva Voice by both the external examiners, only after that, the floor is open for any questions, from the rest of the participants, the rest of the audience for the Viva Voice. So that's how that is the format of this. And, so typically what we have been doing in the past has been that, yes, we allow the research scholar to make the presentation, and then the Viva Voice can start. At the same time, we leave it to the discretion of both the examiners. If they wish in between, at any point of time, if they would like to sort of stop it and ask some questions, I think that, is a discretion we leave it to them. So with these few words, I request, Mr. Samuel Chakravarti, to start his presentation. And my request is, during the course of the Viva Voice for the next few minutes, during the presentation, excepting for the external examiners, rest of us, if we can mute, I think that will help, because, considering that it is a virtual way of working, and there are bound to be some distractions that are likely to come, and we don't want them to disturb anybody. Starting with me, I'm going to put it on the mute mode. And as far as the video mode is concerned, yes, we leave it to you, subject to the bandwidth. With the bandwidth, maybe we can do that. So with these a few words, so over to Mr. Samuel Ezra Chakravarti to make his presentation.
This is the name.
Can I start, sir?
Yes, you can start, Mr. Samuel.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the. I thank all the participants for participating in my Viva Voice. My name is Samuel Chakravarti. I'm a certified financial planner from Chennai. My research supervisor is Dr. Gautam Tanti.
Viva. Viva.
Over the course of the next 45 minutes, these are the contents which I'll be sharing it with you. The introduction part of it, review of the literature, the research formulation, followed by the data analysis and the concluding remarks. This is my progress on my research journey. I got enrolled in 2014, got my topic registered in 2015, and right now I'm in my Viva Voice. Based on the comments given by external examiners, we have taken the action and it is there. Screen. The first comment is the title appropriate for the current
Samuel Chakravarti, I'm sorry for interrupting you. What
the conclusion part of the abstract is weak. The conclusion must be more elaborate to seek readers' attention. Accordingly, the conclusion part is changed. There is difference between risk and risk profile may be given briefly at the stage. Explained as taught. Pearson correlation test needs little bit more clarification. So we have clarified it. Typo and terminology errors in page 41. Typo error is actually rectified. The table is excluded exploratory factory analysis that has been included. CFA has to be removed. That has also been removed. Addressing self-bias and convenient sampling. Scope of work, I have addressed only non-response. It could be other self-biases, could be for future further research work. Correct way of declaring degree of variability. As pointed out by the examiner, comments has been incorporated in this thesis. Is multiple regression appropriate to analyze rephrasing sentence is rephrased. So, if I may, yeah. Been some mistakes. Yes, sir. Ranking of investment, the weighted total reveals that charities is preferred over emergencies. As per the study, charities and overseas score over emergency. That is what our study says, and in actual reality also it is, that is a problem which we face because charities are of the least priority in emergency. Ranking of investment preferences, say versus table 417 they have mentioned, which says that in extreme risk covers, you suggested that risk covers there is nil, whereas fixed deposits is more preference, which is within norm with all the studies that fixed deposit is more sought after investment. Since socio-demographic factors are categorical in nature, how was regression analysis done? It is done as per research referenced from previous research papers. The inputs of the variables were dummy coded and then analyzed. Low R square value, the typo error, there was a typo error which was rectified. And the 15th point is to include R square value for domination bias, which has been included. Error and rotated component matrix table has been rectified. 18th, it says investor behavior has been mentioned as investor only. That has been rectified. Risk and risk profile was used interchangeably, and taking the comment from the examiner, it has been rectified. Reporting of criterion variable and mediating variable is rectified. It is written again, so that is also in page 4. Again, the same thing has been repeated, which has been rectified. Low R square value, there was a typo error. Instead of 0.12, it was wrongly mentioned as 0.02 in those tables. Observe that research is not clearly mentioned the research guidance. It has been incorporated. Regression model explains that the variables used in the study may not be sufficient to construct a linear model, fully accept the examiner's comment, and it could be for further scope of work by increasing the sample size, etc. Website references needs to be addressed according it has been incorporated. So these are the various comments which has been done. All of them have been incorporated except a few which was left untouched because of realities. This is the research motivation. Excuse me, sorry. To start off with, I'd like to start off with the pioneers of behavioral finance, Daniel Kahneman. Financial advising is a prescriptive activity whose main objective should be to guide investors to make decisions that best serve their interest. Being a financial advisor myself, I take this as a Bible word and I follow that. Accordingly, investment advisory in India, it's still in a very early stage, and it is also an urgent necessity with a plethora of financial products available in the market right now. And people are willing to sell it without even understanding the importance of the risk tolerance level of the investor. Hence, very little psychometric tools are used to understand the risk attitude. And also, predominantly across the globe, there is a bias in choosing investments, which poses another challenge for the advisors. So I got motivated because to read more about how the biases influence behavioral decisions. And also, bias is nothing but a rational deviation from rational behavior because of their beliefs and preferences. So hence, there is a need to assess the risk tolerance and identify behavioral bias. Hence, the motivation to do this research. Also, the duality of risk. I mean, a person who is risk in one particular area may be risk-taking in another particular area. Okay, that is, a person's belief is different from a person's feelings or emotions. It is all a compelling reason for this research motivation. To give you a better understanding about this, before we go fully ahead into the presentation, we've taken risk profile as a variable, investment behavior as another variable, which influences, which behavioral biases influence. Again, the investment behavior can be measured subjectively, that is, their actual choice of financial products, and also objectively, giving a set hypothetical questions and how they behave to that. Behavioral bias is determined by, for the study tape, by emotional biases and the cognitive biases. So this is an abbreviation of it. Now, to give you an overview of risk and behavioral finance, okay, we would like to present the investment scenario in two cases. One, the pre-liberalization stage, and another, the post-liberalization stage. In the liberalization stage, investments were mainly in physical assets. The main focus was on safety with assured returns, etc. But post-liberalization, investment was more into intangible assets. The focus was more on inflation-adjusted returns and the availability of a variety of investment products, stood evidence to that. Hence, it is imperative to understand the risk and return payoff. So, on the top end of the chart, you will see the risk return payoff. For every unit of return, percentage of return, you need more. The person has to undergo another unit increase of risk. That is the risk return matrix. And on your left is how the financial assets have grown over the last 5 years. Okay, till FY19, the data shows till FY19, whereas from it has gone up to 60% in financial assets, and physical assets have come down to 40%. And bottom is the list of investment options which are available in India with their risk capacity, with their risk and their liquidity. And if you see the one which is no risk, like RBI taxable bonds and PPF, okay, their liquidity is very limited, whereas one with high risk like equity and equity mutual funds, their liquidity is high. A small overview of risk. Human perception of risk is very complex. As such, it's gone through extensive research by psychologists and economists. The behavior of being ours is inborn in our nature right from time immemorial. The aversion to danger is inborn in all of us. Risk differs across different domains for the same individual. A person, the classic example could be of a person who smokes. Okay, he's aware of taking the risk on himself, but when it comes to investing in risky investments, he is very risk averse to that particular thing. So as such, domains can be risk differs across domains like a physical domain, health domain, recreational domain, social and ethical domains. So no, the risk is not a person's risk attitude toward varies across all the different domains. Again, the aspect of risk is very subjective, and it varies from person to person and time to time. What is riskier to me may not be riskier to another person, and what is riskier to me at this point of time may no longer be riskier to in another time frame. Risk aversion is well explained by loss aversion. Loss aversion refers to the fact that people tend to be more sensitive to losses than to gains. In the words of Zielenberg, regret is a negative, cognitively determined emotion that we experience when realizing or imagining that our present situation would have been better had we acted differently. Again, risk tolerance test measures the risk-taking ability of it. That is how we do measure the risk-taking ability. Assessing risk tolerance is very complex because, as I mentioned earlier, it is domain-specific, and risk attitude is not the same across different domains. And a lot of research has been done to explain risk in different domains. Financial advisors assess the risk tolerance of individuals before advising on the assets they investors. And study found that behavioral finance. Traditional finance was built on principles based on investors' rationality and market efficiency. The theory of arbitrage principles, portfolio theory, were all traditionally built on traditional finance. According to behavioral finance, individual investors can be irrational in their decisions making because of their psychology. Behavioral finance combines the psychological and behavioral aspects of decision making. Investor decision making is influenced by the individual and market psychology, thus making the decisions of individual investors very irrational. Again, individual investors are vulnerable to various behavioral inconsistencies. The scope of research of this study is limited to Greater Chennai and does not include the suburbs and surrounding areas of Chennai. The study is limited to respondents who are employed above 21 years of age. Speculative investments and exotic investments like art and wine is all left out of the study. Psychometric analysis is used to assess the risk-taking ability of the respondents. The questionnaires are chosen based on the focus group discussion done. Review of literature, a brief review of the literature done focuses on behavioral studies, risk and behavioral finance. Talked about the theory of planned action by Aversion and Fishbein. And even in this study, we have taken a lot of elements from the theory of planned actions. The four essential elements defining behavior, according to Aversion and Fishbein, is action, target, time, and context. Now, extrapolating it to the investment field, an action could be the decision to invest. The target could be to where to invest, whether to in fixed deposits or on equity. The time and the frequency of which they invest, or at what time they will require that investment goal to be completed. The context is the actual goal itself, goal of the investment. Whereas to buy a house, or for children's education, or for children's marriage. So accordingly, we have incorporated this in investment behavior. And according to them, behavior measurement, they have given a lot of things, which we have again extrapolated it to the investment behavior. So taking off from that, investment behavior can be measured as a binary variable, whether to perform a behavior or not, for example, to use a credit card or to use a cash. It can also be measured as multiple choices. What is the preferred type of investment? Where, it could be which investment, and it could be measured in multiple choices. Quantifying the extent to which the behavior is performed. For example, what is your contribution towards your goal? Less than 5,000 rupees or 5,000 to 10,000 rupees. Measuring behavior as per the frequency. How often do you invest? Whether you invest monthly, quarterly, or annually, etc. The theories point out that, as Aversion and Fishman point out, that according to the target behavior, which is under study, any of the above or a combination of the above measures can be used to measure investment behavior. The review of literature of risk aversion theories. One of it, which is the theory of utility by Daniel Bernoulli. They took off on the standard classic theory of marginal utility and posited that as the utility of wealth increases, it decreases at a diminishing rate. So they posit that the person is indifferent towards risk-taking after a certain point of wealth creation. The Ellsberg paradox goes by the favorite the wordings of known devil is better than an unknown angel. So they posit that taking risk in a known investment is more sought after than betting much more than in an unknown investment. But the prospect theory gets into aspects like risk aversion, loss aversion, etc. Risk attitude, as such, it lacks consensus and it's very ambiguous. Ambiguous when it comes to defining risk attitude. According to Saussure, there are diverse dimensions to it in measuring risk attitude. One could be on their opinions, beliefs, and values, and risk attitude could be because of their evaluations, like dislikes and preferences, or through their attractive ideas. Again, risk could be objective and subjective. By objective, it is measured. By objective, risk tolerance could be measured as a ratio of the risky financial assets to the total portfolio. And subjective is by asking, subjective is measured by an individual's response to on risk-related questions. The commonly used method is a combination of both of them. The measures of risk tolerance. Anna et al. Defines the measures of how risk tolerance could be measured. One is measuring through the investment choices which they make, the investment products which they make. Another is a combination of investment and subjective questions, or it could be an hypothetical risk questions, or it could be a measure of their actual behavior per se. Literature review on behavioral finance showcase the shortcomings of the classical theories based on these following concepts. The concept of rationality, because humans are irrational and it is wrong to assume that they are rational. And then they posted the role of emotions in investments, which is very true in India, where investing for a particular goal like a house or a child's education, involves a lot of emotions. Informational accuracy, the current information, the questionability of the accuracy of the information. So demographic factors like age, gender, and other factors influence investment decision. So, and also greed and fear, they found out that they are the major characteristics of investors' behavior. So because of that, it gives cause to behavioral biases. Behavioral bias is usually the result of prejudice when choosing one thing over the other. Behavioral biases can be influenced either by their own experiences, judgment, or norms by the society as such. And as such, biases can be defined as a deviation from the norm. It could be either cognitive, raising out of faulty reason, or it could be emotional because of their institutions. And as such, they could be classified as cognitive and emotional biases. So these are the various kinds of cognitive biases and emotional biases we have taken for the study. Overconfidence is the tendency of people to have overconfidence in their own ability. Anchoring refers to the fact that people get attached to the first information which they have. Mental accounting points out to the fact that people tend to code, categorize, and analyze and evaluate their assets. Confirmatory bias, again, it's a tendency to search and interpret results based on your past decisions. Availability is availability of information, relying easily on information which is readily available. On the emotional side is loss aversion, a person's tendency to be very averse to inadverse decisions. Environment affects them to the fact that a person is willing to pay more for an asset which rather is willing to get less, willing to accept less for an asset which he doesn't know. Herd mentality is following the group mentality where decisions are taken based on how the others generally take their decisions. Familiarity bias again is linked to availability bias. Self-control bias stems from lack of indiscipline in their behavior as such. These are the various literature which was studied. A few pointers for the presentation which we have taken. The research gaps identified from the literature review was that the study of risk profiling was limited to investment behavior in the stock market. So a lot of studies has been done, using stock market data, but very limited studies. Biases were studied individually. Only a handful of studies where emotional biases were studied together and analyzed together. Social demographic variables, wanted to see if it is a norm with the other previous studies across India and across the globe. Again, a majority of studies on behavioral biases and social demographic variables done where with secondary data. No primary analysis is done. So those were the research gaps identified. And accordingly, the research objectives were drawn. One of that was to assess the risk tolerance level among investors. The next was to identify if there exist behavioral biases among investors in Chennai. To explore the effect of socio-demographic variables, both for behavioral bias, to establish a relationship between the investors and behavioral biases, and to identify the role of a mediating variable between the independent variable and the dependent variable. These were the objectives drawn. This is the conceptual framework of the study, where we have included social demographics also into the conceptual model. So based on the objectives, the questions were formulated. What is the level of risk tolerance among investors? What is the type of behavioral biases? Do social demographic variables affect the three variables in the study? Is there any significant relationship between investment behavior and behavioral biases? Is there any significant relationship between the risk profile and investment choices, etc.? Hypothesis development. Graphics and the three variables under study. Then a hypothesis was developed to check the relationship between the variables, risk profile, behavioral bias, and the role of independent variables. This is the research designed for the study as such. As such, the present study is exploratory, descriptive, and explanatory. It is exploratory as the relevant literature was reviewed, industry experts were interviewed. It is descriptive as the social demographic impact on the investor study. It is explanatory as the effect of each variable on another variable study. The present study is designed under the positivism research paradigm to accomplish the stated objective. Questionnaire using survey research. The data obtained were statistically analyzed and research findings were used to describe the risk profile and behavioral biases. The present study used a deductive approach because the research objectives were developed based on a conceptual and theoretical understanding of behavioral studies relevant to individuals' decision making. The target population and sampling frame. The estimated population of Chennai in 2020 is approximately 11 million as per world population review. The national estimate of the workforce as per 2011 census data is 40%. So its target population is estimated at 4 million. So the sampling frame is the working population in Chennai who are investing in any investing avenue above the age of 21. And accordingly, the respondents were sourced from known investment agencies and the sample size was derived by the widely accepted, and accordingly the sample size was fixed at 385. The study used purposive sampling in initial stages to select the participants for the focus group interview. The participants helped in forming the questionnaires, in removing ambiguity in the questionnaire, and to make it more relevant. For the main study, however, convenience sampling was done to collect data for the study. Respondents were collected. A couple of investment agencies had provided their investors' database for us to contact, and other corporate seminars were conducted to collect the data. All the respondents were interviewed personally. There was no over mail or over the phone interviews. The current study used non-probabilistic techniques and, to be very specific, convenience sampling. The question was framed as 5 sections. The first section was about the demographics. The second was the general risk profile of 10 items, investment risk of 5 items, cognitive bias of 10 items, and emotional bias. The questionnaire types were close-ended questions to make the respondents choose from a given set of choice. It used a Likert scale type on a scale of 5 points. Section A describes the respondent's background about the social demographics. B focuses on the risk appetite. Section C focuses on 5 hypothetical investment situations to capture the investment behavior or investment type. The final section consists of 20 statements to capture the dominant behavior bias of the types. There is a mediation model adopted for the study, with risk profile being the mediating variable, bias being the independent variable, and investor type or investor behavior being the dependent variable. These are the research techniques which are used, both descriptive, multi-regression, descriptive analysis to assess the risk tolerance and to identify the existence of risk and behavioral biases. Multiple regression analysis were done to explore the effect. Yes, a correlation test was done to establish the relationship between the variables, and the Sobel test was done to test the mediating effect of risk. A pilot study was done before starting the main survey to check the validity and reliability of the questionnaire, and also to see if there was any ambiguity as such. 719, and social demographic factors were regressed on risk and bias, and risk as a mediating variable was established. These are the data analysis from the main study. It could be seen that on the income category, the study of more or less the working population. that is on the income side. On the age side, it was decided that all the age categories (6%), followed by below 30 at 22%. The remaining three age groups of 40 to 50, 50 to 60, and the greater than 60 age were less or equally distributed at 19, 16, and 16%. In the current study, out of the total respondents, 77% were men and 93% were women. This is a data analysis on the hypothesis. The first hypothesis with regards to socio-demographic factors on the risk-taking ability proved that all the social demographic factors significantly influence the risk-taking ability of the investor. The second hypothesis proves to be that all the socio-demographic factors significantly influence the bias of the investor, and also socio-demographic factors significantly influence the investor behavior. These are the hypotheses, data analysis done on the influence of behavioral biases on investor type, which says that it's got a significant influence on determining investor type. Risk has also got a significant influence in determining type. This is a relationship between the risk and the actual investment behavior. By actual investment behavior, it is explained that the choice of the type of investment product will do, how risky they have actually chosen the product, etc. We've done a rotated component matrix, and accordingly, three factors were loaded, and accordingly, the components were loaded as investment risk, general risk, and speculative risk based on their loadings. On bias part of it, there were four factors, and accordingly, they were labeled as identification behavior, control behavior, confidence behavior, and confirmation behavior. The mediating effect was tested through the direct method, and path C value reduces significantly on account of the mediator. Earlier, when behavioral bias was regressed to investor type, it was 0.134, the path value. But then when a risk profile was introduced as a mediating variable, it reduced significantly to 0.084. So if it is reduced completely, then you could say that the mediating variable completely influences the decision. But since it does not reduce to zero, the path value, so it is taken that mediating variable is a partial mediating variable. Again, to retest it, we tested with the Sobel test equation and indirect effort. It goes on the assumption of a two-tailed set test of the hypothesis that the mediated effect equals zero on the population. An indirect effect of 0.644 with a p-value of no less than 0.05 is accepted, and risk as a partial mediating variable is accepted. And these are the findings which are aligned with the objectives. Is the risk profile influenced by the socio-demographic factors of the investors in Chennai? Yes, all the factors like age, gender, occupation, and income significantly influence the risk-taking ability. Is the investment behavior influenced by the risk-taking? Yes, it is influenced. Does the behavioral bias influence investment behavior? Yes, the investment behavior is significantly influenced. Behavioral bias, does it influence the risk-taking ability? Yes. Does the risk-taking ability affect the choice of financial products? Yes, the risk-taking ability influences the behavior in choosing financial products. These are the results of a variable relationship of the relationship between the three variables, where biases got a significant influence in determining investor type. It's found that risk has a significant influence in determining investor type. It is also found that bias has a significant in determining decisions. It's also found that emotional bias is the dominant bias in the investment decision. It was found that all three variables under study have a positive relation with each other significantly. And familiarity bias is the dominating bias, whereas self-control bias and mental accounting bias are the least affecting biases. The limitations of the study. The current study was done in urban Chennai and the suburban areas was left out. The study took only a few social demographic factors for analysis. The study has taken only limited biases for analysis. The risk tolerance of the individual actually varies with time, lifestyle, and the need. So, hence that is one of the main limitations of the study. Also, another limitation could be that the behavioral bias of the individual also tends to vary over time. For the scope of study, there is enormous scope to extend the study to suburban rural parts of India. Social demographic factors, other social demographic factors like education, marital status can be taken up if needed for further study. Further studies can be used using other biases like narrative fallacy framing. More advanced techniques and tools be explored and used to classify we are using right now. The study can be used for further research on behavior bias affecting the risk-taking capacity. The components identified by principal component analysis can be used in further studies. Contribution of the study develops an understanding of the risk tolerance and investment behavior. As a personal financial advisor, it's a wonderful contribution. The study will also enable individual investors to get a better understanding of risk tolerance and behavioral biases. The study adds to the theoretical knowledge by providing empirical evidence. The implications of the study will help further researchers by way of their literature survey and review done. Further research can be started off from where the study ends. For financial planners and advisors, will be able to understand the various biases and risk and accordingly help their clients to adjust, adapt, and moderate the client needs. For the investors, it could serve as a reference on what this is all about, and it can also help to set up their biases in a significant manner so that they can indulge in more rational investment decisions. To conclude, the current study is a sincere attempt to analyze the risk-taking capacity and the biases which are present among the retail investors in Chennai. Risk-taking capacity of the investors also affects the investors' decision when making investment decisions. Researchers in the investment domain can use the study to do further studies. Investment advisors can use the study to understand behavioral bias. A cross-sectional study of social demographic factors along with the risk propensity is highly relevant in the current scenario. These are the list of publications and participation in seminars. And finally, coming to the acknowledgements, it is but natural to acknowledge a few of people who have helped me out in my study. The first and foremost is Professor O.R. Rao. My heartfelt gratitude, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all the support. To be very brief, my association with Professor Rao dates back 10 years back. Back in my days under his mentorship at Cygnus. I'd just like to point, though I think I have the time to point out a few, instances where Professor Rao's, decisions have helped me in my life. One of that was under our training, when we were undergoing a training in Cygnus. There were a lot of people who were very technically, but they were not their analysis. So Professor Rao came up with this idea, even though we had a communication class. Professor Rao came up with an idea that from the next day, everyone should come in the mornings. They could take any business newspapers. Us being analysts, we could take any business newspapers, be it Business Line or Economic Times, and for 10 minutes before the start of official timings, we'll have to present something, a relevant topic from the business paper. We were taken back. Personally, to me, that gave me a sense of, communication, in the sense like whenever I read a particular article, be it in a book or be it in a newspaper, the only thought which comes to me is how well could I reproduce it to others? How well could I communicate what I've read to others? So that is something very unique which has affected me. And after some time, after around 5 or 6 years, when I came to ICFA University, Jharkhand, and when I see the same thing happening there in the morning assembly session, of where students are asked to come and that how blessed those students are, because just like I benefited, I think a lot of people would have benefited out there. So that is my memory from my Cygnus days. Now coming back to ICFA University memories, only one thing I would like to point out. Of course, my relationship with Dr. Rao changed after I came to ICFA University. Earlier, we used to, in Cygnus 10 years back, if Rao sir comes that side, we'll go off the other side. And invariably, we never used the restroom, because our restroom was in one side of the corridor and his room was on the other side of the corridor. So when some says like, we have to use the restroom, then the reply is, Rao is in office, Rao sir is in office. Would you want the use the restroom? As a research scholar, my relationship, the relationship entirely changed, and he started treating me like a scholar, suggesting books. Why don't you read this book, Samuel? Why don't you go join in, British Council Library? That's a wonderful library. Always providing pointers as to how to go about in my journey. And in the middle, I was stuck. With my research. He was so empathetic, listening to me, empathizing with me on why I couldn't proceed further, and reassigning to me. Professor Rao sir, thank you very much. I wish I could do this personally to you, but thank you for all the wonderful things you've been. Dr. Gautam Tanti, my supervisor, has been a constant, motivation and guidance to me. You can say like looks can deceive. I mean, he doesn't look so tough on the outer side, but actually he's a very tough person. Okay. He used to nudge me to do certain things, and then when it didn't work, he used to push me to do, and then later on the push turned to shoving also. So he was literally on behind my back. And thank you, Dr. Gautam. Thank you for everything. All those research papers and publications you helped me with. Thank you very much. And I should talk about the IUJ staff. If I University Jharkhand staff, right from the time I've enrolled, the staff has been excellent in supporting me, right from my accommodation, getting subsidized rates for scholars accommodation, arranging transport for the scholars. Okay, I remember once even if the bus goes, arranging another transport facility. Thank you, FI staff, for all the support, admin staff for the support. The PhD board, Dr. Ariyaran, I think is the only person who has attended all my half-yearly presentations. Always, helpful in giving comments and suggestions. Thank you, Dr. Ariyaran, sir. Dr. Rumna, madam. Always having a sweet demeanor, an easy-go attitude of helping me out even if I'm confused. Dr. Bhagat, Dr. Barik, though I haven't interacted with you much. Only in the last 6 months I've interacted with you. Dr. Pallavi and Rajkumar, thank you both. Without you, this thesis wouldn't have been completed at all. Dr. Pallavi for correcting all. So I sincerely apologize for all the corrections I had you had to do for me. Dr. Rajkumar for being a pillar of support during the methodology correction, pointing out that this is not the correct methodology. You should analysis should be presented in this particular way. Thank you, Dr. Rajkumar. And a special mention to Mr. Sumit Sinha, who is also with ICFA University. He's a very close friend of mine. It was friendship at the first sight. He's my batchmate. It was friendship at the first sight itself. So he always used to make me feel at home whenever I was at Ranchi, taking me to his residence, introducing me to his friends. Thank you, Mr. Sumit, and happy birthday to you also. Today is your birthday. And my wife, Savita Jha, my son, Keval Roshan, for the constant encouragement and support. I thank my siblings, Dr. Priyadarshini and Dr. Anita, for their inspiration in me doing this, and also my niece, Grace, for helping me in data collection. And finally, this wouldn't be complete if I don't dedicate this to my late mother. I lost my father when I was 3 years old. My mother, as a single parent, she brought me and both of my sisters. And whatever she provided us with the basic amenities, the basic necessities of life. But she didn't compromise on education for us. And accordingly, during our time, both my sisters went on to do their research and got their doctorate degrees. Unfortunately, I couldn't. I was caught up in other vagaries of life. But right now, being on the threshold of getting this prestigious degree from a prestigious institution, I would like to dedicate this to my mother. Thank you all. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel, for your compliments and for the fond remembrances. So the only thing I would like to comment is, maybe more than 10 years back, you were just a student, and
Yes,
after that you joined the industry, and you have become an experienced professional. So that being the case, just like our own children, depending on the age and level they are, which maybe we got to manage them accordingly. I think that's what it is. So beyond that, nothing else. So I request Dr.
Yes,
Rajiv to conduct the Viva Voice. And so over to Dr. Rajiv, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr.
Sir,
Rao.
Rajiv, if you can permit Mr. Samuel to switch off, stop sharing his screen, or would like the PPT to be on?
No, you can switch off the
So I think,
screen.
Samuel, what you could do is, you can just, stop sharing the screen so that it will be easier for you and no distraction. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate Samuel. It was a very good presentation. He had made a very good presentation. I appreciated him for that presentation. And first, I would like to go to your topic, Samuel.
Samuel, you can stop sharing your screen. Yeah, okay, I think he's having a problem. I think that's, yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Samuel, I'll just come to your topic first before I go into the other part of the corrections which you have already made. This topic is more of a objective rather than a topic. Don't you feel so? You're told about the relationship between risk profile and investor behavior. But when you go into the objectives of the study, it's far beyond just talking about the relationship between risk profile and investor behavior. Can you just try to defend your topic?
I'm sorry, the connection was breaking. If I can rephrase it, you
Right,
just want me to talk about my title, sir, my topic.
Yeah, your topic, you'll have to justify it because I feel your topic is more of an objective rather than a topic as such, because your objective talks beyond what you've told in the topic. So can you justify the topic?
Yes. Sir, my topic is a study relationship of the risk profile and the risk the investment behavior of investors in Chennai, sir. So my topic is the main file and the investment behavior per se, and in Chennai, and it was decided that the location could be added on to the scope of work. So Chennai was dropped out, and more in work with the current times study was also removed. So the topic was just just kept as a relationship between risk profile and investment behavior of
Okay. When you go to your objectives, if you look at the objectives and your topic together, how do you justify the topic? Again, I'm coming back to the same thing. It should. I personally feel it should have been risk and behavioral bias or anything of that sort, which would have explained it in a better manner.
Sir, initially it was started off.
I think
risk and risk with investment behavior.
Okay. There's some problem with your audio, I suppose. Anyway, now when you have made the necessary corrections which were told, in your research design, you have not explained what research design you are using, except in a table presented in page number 66. Okay, so other than that, in your research design, you have not mentioned what type of research design you have used. I presume that these changes you bring about in your thesis, so that whenever you are going in for the publication of your thesis, that would be useful for you. For that part,
fine, sir.
please, yeah. So
yes,
please
sir,
take care of it. And
okay,
now coming back to the page number 120 in your thesis, I think you have quoted down the page number of 120 in the corrections which you have told. The R square value is just explaining. 1 second, I'm just looking at the thesis. Yeah, your R square, that is a model investor behavior and bias. It's explaining just 1.8% of the total variation. So with such a low value, how are you going to explain the relationship between investor behavior and bias?
Yes, sir. The R square value is a bit low, sir. So initially in the pilot study itself, it was around 27%.
Okay, this is there a correction in this 0.018?
So point
0.018 it is given your R square value.
No, sir. It is actually 0.18, sir. That it is actually 0.18 and 0.19, sir.
Okay. So see to it that this is made. Again, coming to page number 123. it is again mentioned as 0.019. So again, this if I'm going to explain it from the strength of your model, it is not acceptable at a stage of research like yours. So see to it that either you do not make a presentation of the relationship between bias and risk, or might be your value is wrong. So if suppose I think you have told it is 0.19. So if it is 0.19, well and good. It's explaining 19%, which again is below the acceptable.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's a typographical error, sir. I mentioned it.
Okay.
It is 0.19, sir.
0.19. Even 0.19 is considered to be a very low relationship when a model is being constructed. So with such strength of the model, I'm really afraid whether you will be able to actually find out the real relationship which you are able to find out in terms of the risk and the bias. So how do you defend and justify it?
Which one, sir? I'm sorry, I didn't get you. Defined and justify what, sir?
19% of the total relation between risk and bias you have explained.
No, sir. It was kept. It wasn't changed, and it was kept based on previous research papers, sir. It was found that in social sciences it could be accepted, so it was kept, sir. But in future studies, we'll use the same thing to adjust the to increase the R square values, sir, by increasing the sample size.
So that's more important.
Yes, sir.
Right. Your sample size is found to be satisfactory. That's why might be your KMO values and other things are on the positive side. Next thing is, how different is your work from the existing literature, whichever you have quoted? How different or how similar it is from the different works which has already been done?
Care has been taken not to replicate other works, sir.
No, like when I'm talking about risk and behavior bias, there are many studies which talks about it, and I'm just trying to find out how similar your work is or how different your work has been in terms of the conclusion on and the findings which you have identified.
On the demographic, it is in line with the demographic things. Risk as a mediating variable has been approached and in this particular studies. So that's how different it is. On the whole, there is not much of a difference.
Okay. And how strong is your mediation effect? How strong has been your mediation
effect? It is a partial mediating effect which we will establish.
Okay, I think if %, or so, if suppose I'm right, with the mediation effect, and without the mediation effect, it is around 13%. So it should be around, So 13%. So okay, you have a good mediation effect. What is the message you? This particular finding.
From this particular finding, it is derived that risk as a mediating.
Mr. Samuel, are you able to hear me? I just wanted to know what should be
No,
give
sir.
based on the
I'm really sorry, sir.
okay. So there's some connection issues, and anyway, why have you used Sobel technique when you could have gone in for structural equation modeling?
I wasn't well versed in structure, to be very honest with you, sir, in structural equation modeling. So it was decided to go ahead with this.
Okay.
I could understand easily what it is all about. I could have in future structure. Me and my supervisor also discussed about it.
Okay.
We could have gone with SEM. We had to write a paper in this one.
Right.
To use SEM to do it, sir. That's the suggestion.
Okay. And again, refer to page number 150. This
Am I
again.
audible, sir? Can you hear me? Because I can't.
Yeah, I'm able to hear you. I think I'm audible.
Dr. Susan?
I'm audible.
Yeah, your
Yes, you are audible,
voice
sir.
keeps breaking, sir. I don't know.
You are audible, sir.
Okay. Now again, coming to your thesis, page number
It just
150.
keeps breaking, sir. It is audible, but it is not clear.
Yeah, I'm saying that if you come to page number 150 of your thesis, again, you have made either it is a typographical error or it is an error which you have just ignored. Again, the R square value is talking about
again, sir?
page
Yes, sir.
150.
R square values, I mean.
So
okay.
this is a concern which I would like to say. And second is whenever you go in for publication of your thesis, see to it that these mistakes are not repeated. And the other things I feel is
Sure,
okay.
sir.
Yeah, I think it's
I've
okay.
noted it down, sir.
Yeah, fine.
Yes.
And
okay, sir. Thank
fine.
you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Raj, Professor.
Thank you. Yeah. I would like to, yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rajiv. And
Yeah.
now may I request Dr. Anupam De. Sir, Dr. Rajiv, any more comments, sir? Any other views from your side, sir?
No, I would like him to make these corrections in future publications.
Yes, sir. I think we'll make sure that he makes all the corrections. And ultimately, the thesis that is submitted to the university, finally, it has to take care of all of them. Mr. Samuel, I think we must take care, and our PhD team will make sure that it happens. Yeah. So now I request Dr. Anupam De to conduct his Viva Voice, sir.
Thank you. Good evening. Good afternoon. So am I audible to everyone? Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir. You are audible.
Thank you,
in fact, Mr. Samuel, I think, there seems to be some problem with the bandwidth at your side. Otherwise, what all Dr. Raji was mentioning, it was clear to all of us. I think you seem to be having some problem. I think, maybe you may have to.
Probably is having some
issues. I think there seems to be some problem from your side. Yeah. Okay, then over to Dr. Anupam De.
Thank you, Professor Rao, and thank you, Professor Raji. And at first, I must tell that Samuel, you have done a wonderful job. Congratulations for your work. I cannot right now officially cannot call you as Dr. Samuel, but virtually you'll be getting your degree very soon. But I have mentioned certain shortcomings, and I pointed out certain defect in my reports. You said that most of them you have incorporated. Three of them I just want to mention here. First one regarding the thesis. What's the comment I have made, Mr. Samuel? Can you tell us what's the comment I have made during the report? In the report only, what I have made? Oh, Samuel is not present. Samuel, am I audible to you? Yeah,
I think Samuel is not there, sir.
Samuel is there actually. He's muted. He's muted.
He's there. Runa, I think little bit between the examiner and himself. Yeah.
Samuel, please unmute yourself first. You're not audible because you are muted. Unmute yourself first. unmute yourself. You are muted. You are not audible. Samuel, am I audible to you?
Dr. Gautam Tanti or somebody from our PhD team, why don't you call up Mr. Samuel?
Yes,
He
sir,
doesn't
sir,
seem to
sir.
be having a stable connection. He does not have a stable internet connection.
No, it's
And
not
in
a
between he's
connection
off.
right now, Professor Rao. It's not a connection right now. He's actually muted. He's muted. He's not able to unmute. Please call him to unmute. He's actually muted. I can see that he's speaking something, but yeah, now it is unmuted.
Dr. Anupam, Dr. Anupam, I'm really sorry, Dr. Anupam.
I understand. At first, I must tell you that you've done a wonderful job. Congratulations for your excellent work. I have made many comments, numerous comments in my reports. You said that some of them you have incorporated. I just want to highlight few of them, not all. What was my comment regarding the title of the thesis? What was my comment? My comment was, I remember. The comment was, you have given a very broad title, but you have covered a particular area, that is Chennai. So in the title itself, that must be reflected, just like a case study in Chennai, or like that. So you have given a very broad title. It looks like that you are going to cover the whole India, but it's not possible at all. But special mention must be there in the title itself, in where you have made your study. So that was not there. So what's your answer?
No, sir. Earlier it was mentioned, but then it was decided that not to use frill words and location places in the title per se. So it could be mentioned in the scope of work.
But
so and as such, it was removed. Sir.
Normally, what happens? Because same title may appear, because everyone can write, I want to study between risks and that title. You made a title like, what's your title? Let me see your title. That the relationship between risk profile and investment behavior. So then all the PhD title must be same then. Because somebody wants to work in the same area, then title will be same. Why the titles are different? Because the work is different. Okay. So if you're saying that it must be the broad one, okay, fine. But then everyone who wants to work in the field of relationship between risk profile and investment behavior, then obviously the title will be the same for every researcher. Is it possible? Is it possible? Tell me. If you can see the most recent titles from my university, also from other universities, you will find that title has been specific sometimes, because that, why it is specific? Just to cover what has been studied. Because from the title itself, it must be clear that what you have studied. But it was not clear, right? Anyway, please take care of it. I made various comments regarding the Aversion and all. I'll come to later. Next question is about your sampling technique. You said that you have used convenient sampling, right? Samuel, have you used convenient sampling? That means it is a non-probabilistic sampling, non-random sampling, right? In case of non-random sampling, there are a lot of biases will come. For example, under-coverage bias, self-selection bias. So that's why if a study is conducted on non-random sampling, then certain statistical steps must be taken to get rid of all these kind of biases. There must be some robustness of the study, but that was missing actually. Otherwise, from the convenient sampling, you cannot make a giant comment if you don't get rid of those biases. Normally, this bias is going to happen because this is a kind of non-random sampling. And from the non-random sampling, the conclusion you have made, that cannot be a generic one. Okay, so what steps you have taken for this? Am I audible? Someone?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yeah. Go ahead, sir. It's just breaking. I think there's problem with my connection only.
Yeah.
Are you able to hear me clearly, sir?
I can hear your voice. My comment was regarding your sampling technique, non-random sampling
Yes, sir.
technique.
There are a lot of biases, like you see in
like
inconvenient sampling. Yes, sir.
Yes.
And I've addressed only the bias of non-response. The other things I haven't addressed.
Yeah, non-response.
So I'll include it in my further study.
Self-selection. These are the things. Okay. So what I've done regarding this, to get rid of this biasness, summary is not clear. Probably.
Yes, sir.
Have we answered?
Just give me 1 minute, sir. Just 1 minute.
Sure.
It open, but they're not finding it. It should open here.
Yeah. Now again you are muted. Please unmute first. Yeah.
Yes,
now,
sir. Can you
give an answer.
Yes, sir.
Give an answer.
The biases, yes, sir. Like you say, convenience bias. In convenience sampling, there are a lot of biases as pointed out. Yes, sir. So I've addressed only the non-response bias, but others I look into.
More important bias is undercoverage bias, because
it's been overlooked.
It is not all the section of the population may not be represented if you're going for a convenient sampling. Okay, so that's a serious kind of biasness.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so in future research, please take care of it. In publication also, if you have taken this particular sampling technique, so it will be difficult to publish a paper. So take care of this. Fine.
Yes, sir.
One thing is missing in your research. In any case of any primary data analysis, there must be conversion validity and discriminant validity test. So have you carried out any conversion validity test and discriminant validity test? You have checked the reliability, right? Have you checked the reliability?
Sorry, sir?
Have you checked the reliability?
Check the, I'm sorry, check what, sir?
Have you checked the reliability? Like
reliability, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Reliability.
Have you checked it? But you have not reported.
It's 0.71, sir. Reliability is 0.71.
Anyway, that's okay. Then comes the conversion validity and discriminant validity. Because in the primary data, these are must, because you have conducted EFA, exploratory factor analysis. So have you checked this? Conversion validity and discriminant validity?
No, sir. No, sir. I haven't checked it.
Now, please check it and please incorporate.
Okay.
That's not a difficult. You can do it in Excel also, taking the results from the factor analysis. You can do it simply in Excel also, but you must report. Right?
Okay.
Various other comments are mentioned. I'm not going to repeat it again. One thing regarding R-square value, repeatedly the same mistake. I don't know whether it's a mistake. I don't know. If it is a mistake again, same mistake of R-square value everywhere. So that is, I must say that we have to be very serious. But another thing, you mentioned that in social sciences, R-square may be 0.19. That's not correct. Even if in social sciences, R-square value must be above 0.25.
0.25.
0.25. Why? Because R is 0.5. So R into R square comes 0.25. So if your R square is below 0.25, then again the results are not clear. So as you mentioned in the while responding to the comments of our co-examiner, Professor Raji, he mentioned that even in social science, in some of the papers you have seen that R-square value can be 0.18 or 0.19.
0.18. Moderate, sir. They mentioned it as moderate. Yes. Yeah.
But that's not correct. It must be near about 0.25. If it is below 0.25, then association is very weak, right? So please take otherwise your whole work cannot be accepted because your entire business work depends on this R square. The R square for the association becomes very weak. Then the whole results are not acceptable, right, Samuel?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So okay, there are other points are there. I'm not going to explain it more. Anyway, I must again thank you for being a good research work. Thank you, sir.
So thank you very much, Dr. Anupam De, for doing a very rigorous evaluation on this thing. And so now that both the examiners have completed the evaluation, now the floor is open to the others to ask any questions or elicit responses. Dr. Hariharan, Dr. Kishore, anybody else from the team.
Okay, very good afternoon, Professor Rao, our Vice Chancellor, Professor Rajiv, to examiners, Professor Rajiv and Dr. Anupam De. Really, it is a great day for Mr. Chakravarti. I always say that the Viva is one of the red letter day. Okay, it's one of the lifetime event for all of us who have gone for the PhD and this thing. It must be very satisfying to you. And I could notice that two of siblings, they have doctors. So I don't know whether PhD or medical doctor, but yes, anyway.
No, all PhD doctors.
Both are PhD, okay.
Yes,
so I hopefully very soon you will have another doctor in your family. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this is what we wish to all of you. I think it's a good work which you have done it. And as I mentioned that I had been there with you in almost all the review presentations.
Yes, sir.
I also remember the kind of comments which you used to give and this thing. That must certainly help you to improve upon your thesis. But
Yes,
there are
sir.
certain observations examiners have made. I think it's not for you only, even for all other scholars. They should be very careful about this aspect, whether these values and this thing. It's the sampling part and this R value and this thing. One should be very careful. Even if it is low value, it doesn't matter, let me tell you. That also is a finding. Okay. Is a high value or low value is a finding from the researcher. So that can be interpreted. But anyway, I think you have done a good job. And as I was there in all your presentation earlier, so today also I was there, almost my video was on when you're making a presentation.
Yes,
I don't know. So probably that must have given a lot of confidence also to make a presentation. So once again, I thank you very much. And you see all the best. I know you are dedicating this thesis to your mother, and rightly you are doing it.
Yes,
you must have gone very difficult time.
Yes,
I mean, when you lost your father and you've taken care. So it's really
yes,
worth that you present. I mean, to dedicate this thesis to her. So thank you very much, and you see all the best for your
thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hariharan. Any views, Dr. Satyendra Kishorji?
I must thank both the external examiners. They perused the thesis quite closely and they have evaluated it, and they posed very pertinent questions. And I also congratulate Mr. Samuel for giving a very nice presentation. It is his hard work is now bearing fruit, I suppose, and very soon he'll be declared, PhD from ICFI University. So my congratulations to him, hearty congratulations, and I wish him all the best. He had
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
worked really very hard. He worked really very hard, and it is a very important topic because in the era of rising inflation, and when we don't have many other avenues to invest. This is very, very important, and the sooner we learn how to take judicious risk in our life and with our savings, so we won't be able to reap the benefit of rising market economy. So it is very, very pertinent and very important subject on which you have done your study. So wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Dr. Barik, any comments or views from you?
Yes, sir. Thank you and congratulations, Mr. Samuel. I think
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
the effort and the topic also you have chosen is one of this contemporary area and industry oriented. I also sincerely thanks to Dr. Anupam sir and Dr. Rajiv sir for his continuous support. And personally, I know Anupam sir from Durgapur for his constant and deep knowledge in research in the finance area. Thank you, sir. And finally, congratulations, Mr. Samuel, for your journey. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
So, anybody else would like to make any comments? Anybody, any queries, not just comments, any queries that you would like to ask Mr. Samuel? There is an open YOOC. That way, every one of you have got a freedom to ask a question and elicit the response.
Thank you, Dr. Anupam De, Professor Rajiv, for your continuous evaluation and support. And I would like to say a few words to Samuel. Mr. Samuel had done a hard work from, I'm acquainted with him from 2014, 15. He has done a hard work and really he had put a lot of pressure for his thesis. And the topic is also very nice topic and informative topic which you have presented today. Your presentation was also very nice. So I also congratulate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for your support.
Anybody else, any other faculty members or PhD scholars would like to ask any questions? Or so, if nobody else is asking, in that case, Dr. Gautam Tanti, you have been his supervisor. We would like to have your views, your comments, and you also can ask questions.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving me the opportunity to be a supervisor of Samuel. Throughout my journey, when I was with Samuel, when the topic was decided under your guidance and supervision with the our PhD team, it was like we were looking after different aspects of this particular topic. As Dr. Anupam sir has addressed certain issues, Dr. Rajiv sir also addressed certain issues, and there are different dimensions, and all together we are trying to make it a structure one so that he could do a good job in that. No doubt he has given his 100%, rather than all his effort he has given to make it giving a structure. I'm appreciate one thing about Samuel is he's very honest. If he could not able to do something, he used to say, sir, this will take time. I'm not able to understand. So that is the best things what I found in this person. And always as our mentor, Hariharan sir, Satinder sir, and BC sir, they are always there to show us the path. So I'm very much thankful to all of you, and I wish and I congratulate Samuel for his future also. I wish.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Beautiful life for his future. Thank you so much.
So if there are no other comments, So I would like to thank both Dr. Rajiv and Dr. Anupam Dey for the diligence that they have done in evaluation of the thesis. In fact, we really like and love that, let me tell you. In fact, what it shows says, like in fact, both of you have gone through the thesis cover to cover, and you have gone through with a very critical view, very kind of professional view of research, and we really appreciate that. While of course, Mr. Samuel, I have been seeing him for the more than 10 years. Before he joined itself, he was a CFA student, and that was the background. So I have been part of the ICFI group for the past 19 years. So in the initial part of my stay, like I set up an applied research and consulting unit. There we were sort of doing both the financial and the kind of financial research and also business research. As a part of it for the CFA students, we used to give them some kind of internship and various evaluation ways to do that. I think that was the kind of rigor with which I think has come. So that way, Mr. Samuel, I have seen him like in fact, starting with as a student of a CFA, and after that, has moved into the profession and has been doing very well. Has been a professional kind of equity, or maybe the investment planner, investment counselor. He's been doing an extremely good job being in Chennai. And of course, when somebody takes on to the academic research, somebody has to appreciate not only the work, what is the pragmatic work that happens, as an empirical studies, but the rigor of the research methodology is, equally important. So I think, those are the lessons and those are the kind of insights both of the external examiners have given, for which, to start with, Mr. Samuel must be thankful, because it's very rarely somebody will come and say that, yes, this is an area where we have to improve. I think that is an area where Mr. Samuel, irrespective of the outcomes of it today's, the Viva Voice, just to be thankful, because every one of us is a lifetime learner. It includes a researcher, it includes somebody that does PhD also. It is just the beginning of his journey. So this being the case, I think, whatever with the insights, whatever with the queries that are asked by both the examiners, particularly with regard to the research methodology, because those principles, they remain the same wherever we are in the respect of the time. Whether it is R square, whether it is a probabilistic sampling or convenience sampling, these concepts, I think they are very, very, we have to be very thorough into that. So that is something I'm thankful to both of them for pointing out these things. To that is something important. And so considering that today we have got a lot of supervisors with us, we have got a lot of some of the PhD scholars that are participating through the YouTube Live. For all of them also, it's a great lesson for them. Because today what has happened, I think somebody has to guard against and see that, they should prevent them. So I think that's something important. So it doesn't mean to say that Samuel has put in a lot of efforts under kind of odds. He has gone through lots of personal and professional problems. Despite that, he put in a lot of efforts and did some work to do that. So I compliment him, and also I would like to congratulate him. So now I think both the examiners have completed the evaluation, and they said, I think they're through with that. So at the same time, Mr. Samuel, what would be the comments that were made out by both of the examiners, just to incorporate them and submit a revised thesis. So I think any outcome out of this is subject to that. So I think that's where I would like to leave it. So as such, because after all, one aspect is the examiner's evaluation report that comes today, and after this, the provisional kind of the approval will be there, and after that it will go through our academic council before it's declared sort of eligible for the PhD. So with these few words, my congratulations on your provisional kind of the acceptance by the examiners.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can I say that on behalf of both the examiners, sir? Because I don't have the authority. It's only both the examiners can give me the authority. Both.
Yes. Congratulations, Samuel.
Yeah, unless you say, because in the normal course when it was physical, sort of we used to say that, sort of, we used to ask the scholar to wait for a few minutes, I'll be outside. Then we used to take, yes, is it all right with you, and take the signature. Only after that only we used to kind of pronounce, their approval. Considering that today we don't have that luxury because of this virtual thing. So directly I'm asking both of you, if Dr. Rajiv and Dr. Anupam Dey, if you have the authority to me that, yes, we can declare him eligible for the
we can.
kind of approval.
It's my pleasure to give you the authority to declare him.
Good, sir. Dr. Rajiv, do I have your approval, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. And both of your approval and the approval of his guide, Dr. Gautam Tanti, is there. The three of you, if you approve, then after that, we declare that he is provisionally eligible for the award of PhD, subject to the university, the regulations. So, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. All the best to you.
Congratulations, Samuel.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Rajiv. Thank
And
you.
I would request all of you to switch on the video.
Yeah, I think if you can switch on the video, then maybe you can take a snapshot of this. And, I also would like to kind of appreciate, Dr. Susan, that has joined us, very recently. It is just over a month since she joined. Just I think 1 month and 1 day possibly. 23rd of August she has joined.
Yes, yeah, correct, sir, correct, sir. 23rd of August.
So she has joined us from the VIT University, from the School of Management. And she has been coordinating the PhD program. And also, I would like to compliment, the efforts of, Dr. Barik. He was instrumental in carrying through this entire process, along with the support of Dr. Rumna and Dr. Rajkumar. And all of them, the PhD coordination team, they have done a good job in evaluating. And also, like Dr. Pallavi and others, they were part of the team, they were trying to help out in pointing out various things into that. So I think, with these few words, thank you all very much. And now over to Dr. Susan.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Rao.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor Rao. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
So thank you very much. Thank you all for coming.
Congratulations, Samuel.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much, madam. Thank you.
Well, my invitation to Dr. both Rajiv and also Dr. Anupam Dey is like to visit our university as per your convenience.
We also wish to visit.
We are compliant with the COVID-19 various safeguards. So that being the case, we will not be afraid at all, So all of our students and faculty members, they have gone through at least one round. And those of us, that are a little bit vulnerable, like some of the old days, we have gone through a complete, vaccination, both the doses. So we will not be worried. We are having COVID-19 compliant, the regulations. Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Rajiv and Dr.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I leave?
Yeah, yes, I think you can leave.